Okay. Hello, hello, hello. Hello, everybody. I think we're good. Let's just make sure audio is good. Hello. Ah. Sweet. So, you guys can kind of see my setup here. All right. Welcome to Monday Musings, YouTube, Instagram. All right. Monday Musings. My name is Justin Harris. I'm an endurance coach. Well, I'm a coach of a lot of things speed and power events, endurance events. I've kind of coached a little bit of everything. But this is my Monday musings, and this is where I muse and talk about things that are on top of mind for me and hopefully are interesting to you. I shouldn't necessarily say that. It doesn't matter if they're interesting to you, but these are problems. I talk about problems that I see and solutions on how to navigate them with what I see in my clients, in the industry, and talking to other coaches. So, welcome. Don't hesitate to ask questions on Instagram or on YouTube here. I'll see them and we'll bring them up and we'll discuss them. But this weekend I was down in New York City, and we had at Team Whoopers, we had an in-person strength for runners session in Soho at Soho Strength with Coach Ryan Hopkins. He's a coach that I work with and collaborate with on training with other clients. So essentially, he takes the strength side and I take the endurance and coaching side. And he's a fantastic coach, awesome guy, has a wealth of experience and knowledge, and is really taking the time to get to really understand at a very highly technical level and then how to get people to understand where they're at. And I love having conversations since day one with them. And so when we're talking about strength for runners, like one of the conversations I've had with him early on was like, not really like drawing the line in the sand at all. It was more like, hey, look, like when I've coached and worked with athletic trainers or strength and conditioning coaches at a collegiate level, or when I worked in high performance settings like at the training center in Lake Placid with bobsled, skeleton, and luge, we were working with the event or sport coach, and then I was doing like sprints and kind of start training with bobsled and skeleton, and then working with the strength coach, working with the athletic trainer, working with the chiro, the massage therapist. Like everyone was like kind of integrated. And at that level, it's like necessary in order to be successful. At Team Whoopers, we do this as well, right? We kind of coordinate and discuss things. And so when you get to other levels, everyone gets really siloed. They get into the place where they feel the most comfortable. And when silos happen in any industry, it creates a lot of friction. And so one thing I really focus on early on is to reduce as much friction as possible. So we got to know each other, and I'm not airing out any of our dirty laundry, but I was like, look, when the athlete doesn't run well in a marathon or their key event, they're not usually going to blame their strength coach. So here, I'm really looking for someone to collaborate, but understand, like, not to try to be fancy and make it feel like, we always, all of us want to make sure that people see the return on investment, and it's not cheap, right? And so Ryan was like, he understood that, and it allows us to collaborate a lot more. So it's an awesome, place to be with him. All right. Some other coaches I work with, other clients that have personal private, strength coaches and different things. And some people I'm like, hey, look, if they want to talk, like, let's talk, like I'm willing to talk. And I can tell you, like, most of the time I don't talk to the person, right? They just don't have no interest, and they're there with their client to make it happen. Well, when the client is a marathoner or a runner or cyclist and they're not getting the results out there, I'm the one that's talking to them once a week. I'm the one that's overseeing everything. And I try to make it work for their personal trainer, but I've had people leave their personal trainers just by like, hey, look, talk to them, tell them we're doing this stuff. I'm willing to collaborate, and let's make it happen. And eventually, after months and whatever, and they're just not getting the results they want to see, it's like, hey, look, like, if this person doesn't want to talk to me, I don't know what you want to do here, right? So collaboration is super important in any kind of sport, and it takes a village to get someone to be successful. And speaking of village, the Olympics are happening and they're coming up real soon. All the athletes are getting to the Milano Cortina. They're in the USA House. They're getting the gear. It's awesome to see, especially awesome to see people who it's their first games. And I know that they've been working for a long time, or it's their like third or fourth games. And they've been, maybe had a tough year or a tough, quad, and they've been able to do it. So it's really awesome to see. But what I wanted to get today, and again, I'll just stop here for a second. Don't hesitate to ask questions as I'm talking about my Monday musing and what I'm musing about today. So on Facebook, YouTube over here, and on Instagram over here. So just jump on, ask questions, comment. Don't hesitate. I'll get to them. But my real musing today and this Monday is to talk about commonalities amongst all coaching. And Ryan gave like a 2-hour presentation on how to tackle strength for runners, like what to look at, how he programs, his philosophies, all these things, right? And one thing he said, Ryan, and I'll tag him on this. Ryan does this. He has these like kind of like euphemisms and metaphors and analogies that just like really landed for me. And I was like kind of chuckling about them because I'm like, yeah, it's just a great way to say them. I know with my clients, they're like, oh, I've written down stuff you said and, just-isms and whatnot. But I remember him saying like, he said this, like, you can't unburn toast. And, I simmered on that for a second. I'm like, yeah, what he was referencing is like, once you get, and I say this all the time with my clients, like, man, you like look like it looks like you feel toasted, right? And they're like, is that a New York thing? I don't know. It's just a me thing, like burnt, toasted, fried, cooked, And so he was talking about, everyone wants to like really one up it and like change their exercises and be dynamic and do all these different things. And what he was really talking about is like simple is effective, and you can be consistent and you can control the variables a lot better. And I forget exactly what he was like said in that context, but he said like, you can't unburn toast. And he just like kept moving on, but I like stood there and I wrote it down. And so what it means is like, if you overcook toast, like, as he said, there's nothing you can do to make it better. Like you can scrape it, but then it's still like dry and hard, right? And it still tastes burnt. Like I've done it before. We've all burnt toast, right? And so, to scrape it or whatever. And this is what happens in like training. And why is this being funky today? Okay. This happens in training where like if we overcook it, if we overspend our training budget, like there are things that we can do, but they don't happen in the short term. All right. And so my Monday musing here is like when I was listening to Ryan talk about strength, and I've listened to other coaches speak and different things and other, endurance coaches and sprint coaches, like it's really easy to overcook something. And elite athletes, if we're going to look at them as a model, which everyone does, and I don't know that it's the best idea because they're genetic freaks, they're freaky. All right. And they're able to do things that we cannot do, whether it's from, years and years of like honing in the craft, or, they're just genetic freaks. I mean, I've seen this guy, Sam McGuffey, bobsledder, played for the Raiders, played for the Michigan Wolverines, and his highlight reel from high school, if you YouTube, it's like one of the first viral ones. I don't know when it was, but YouTube Sam McGuffey, McGuffie, and high school highlight reel. And he's like hurdling people and stuff. Phenomenal. This guy, his athletic background, I found out was gymnastics. He started in gymnastics and football and all these things. And although when I asked him what he felt, like some athletes like that I coached that went to Brown and Stanford and, some of these Ivy League schools, so they're really intelligent. They were really articulate, but their body awareness was Some was okay, but him, like, if I asked him, like, what you felt, like, he'd be like, like, he'd be talking. I'd be like, all right, man, just like your hips need to be like into the sled a little bit more when you push. Boom, done. And he's like, how was that? And I was like, right. It was like, and there was another like women's bobsledder who was a phenomenal athlete, track and field athlete. And it's like, all you had to say was like one thing and they can hit the position. And some people, like, you can show them video, you can talk about it, you can change the metaphors, and they couldn't do it. All right. But, little side tangent on genetic freaks, but you cannot unburn toast. All right. That's my Monday musing. So Ryan, and I stole this from him. We'd rather be a mile short than an inch over. And that comes from Ryan. Remember hearing him say that. And that's another one of his metaphors or sayings or euphemisms. Euphemism? I don't know. I'm probably not saying that right. All right. So anyway, so why can't, if elites can do it and understand their body, why can't you? Right? Well, I want to go faster. I have this thing coming up. I have this, like, you have all these just fucking excuses on why you should be like training harder than you really are. Now, I'm starting to get this like persona that I'm like the easy training guy, and I just don't believe that's true. It's just, we get results, we get consistency. I help athletes grow year in and year out by being systematic, by being diligent, and by repeating the simple things over and over and over again, and having clear principles to what's guiding us. So I was just having a conversation today with a client. Like, we worked together. She had a little rocky start. Found out she kind of had sports asthma like from a while ago. That's why she didn't like race too well. I believe, and I think she agrees. But her body didn't really respond to some of the more increased volume than what she was used to. And so, long story short, we kind of like pulled away from half marathons and focused on some other things that involve running. And we tuned down things, and her chronic training load like came way down, and she felt like way better. But I said, if we stick with some of these principles, when we get to a year and 18 months, like, you're going to start absorbing and being able to like demonstrate like comfort at like threshold levels. And that's the place that this client really struggled. And sure enough, like, she stuck with it, and I'm sure she had doubts and whatnot. And she stuck through it, and she's been able to like really progress and like feel much more confident and better. Right. And so it's rinse and repeating. Like, the timelines that people have, I think, are just like accordion effect. Like, they're way too short. They're way too short. They like squeeze them in. And then when things aren't going well, we get burnt out, and then we like stretch them all the way out. So anyway, Monday musings, you can't unburn toast. You're better off to chip away at it. And I did a talk on Wednesday at Google. That was the Mag 7 company. I don't know why I didn't want to say it. Maybe I was just like internally really nervous about it. But I spoke to Google about, the title was called Sustained Success, a Framework for Aging Athletically. And so I kind of mapped out, not from like a doctor standpoint, like, physical exercise and fitness is really important for long-term health. I just kind of said, we all can assume that this is important, but how do we go about that? And I've talked to you guys here about like a training budget and, understanding some basic principles. And at the end of the day, it's about like, certainly for most of us here, we want performance, but performance is not health. And then we have health, and health is not performance. So where I work is where those two overlap in a Venn diagram, all right? And where performance and health match each other. And so if you're healthy, then you have an opportunity to perform, because you can keep training and be consistent and stack the bricks. So Rome wasn't built in a day. Either is your fitness. So take your time and realize you can't unburn toast. So what's up, everyone? How we doing? Checking in. It's Monday musings. I got my little glass of wine. And no, I don't drink a bunch before I come on here. My eyes might look like that, but it's 9 o'clock at night for me, and I usually wake up at 5 a.m., so I'm a little tired. So, and I have like a bright light in my face, and I have two different cameras. It almost feels like the prom, like, like everyone's snapping or whatever, like the red carpet, everyone's snapping pictures. It's like, where do I look? So what's up, Flex on the fairway? What's up, Karina? What's up, Christy? What's up, Amy? So yeah, any questions that pop up, feel free to ask those of you on Facebook or YouTube chiming in. Someone on Facebook watching. I see you. So what questions, curiosities do you have? What do you think about the "You Can't Unburn Toast" from Coach Ryan Hopkins, one of our Team Whelpers coaches? How does it influence you? What races do we have coming up? What are we training for? What curiosities do we have? This is the Q&A part. So got on my soapbox and talked about some other great coaches. And when you see other coaches talk about the same stuff, it's like, it's not rocket science. Like Matt talks about this, other coaches talk about this. It's not rocket science. How'd your run go today, Karina? I'm curious. And for those, I know it's dry January. Well, no, it's February, so maybe people will join me a little bit. All right, a little Chardonnay. Hi, Janice. Hello, hello. How you doing? All right, so it went well. So like you just felt smooth, you took your time, just happy to be running continuously. How'd it go? What's up, Boston? All right, no questions at the moment, but just got a Peloton tread, so I'm excited to get on that. Yeah. The more I experience treadmills, like I've yet to be on a Peloton tread, but I just hear so many amazing things. Not just Matt speaking highly of them, but yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, take your time. Less is more. Be consistent. Absorb it. Shouldn't feel shelled from it. All right, Karina, excited to be getting back to business. Yeah. Yeah, it's not fun to be on the sideline, but I always get to this place. So Karina was sick for a little bit, got wiped out, had to miss a race and stuff. But we talked about in our group coaching, our Team Whelpers group coaching, where we're training towards the New York City half marathon. I keep saying marathon, half marathon. And well, I'm not trying to air out your dirty laundry here, but being sick, right? Like, how do we return? And so when I talked to Google, it was like, I don't mean to keep dropping this, but it's just like, it's like in my head, and yeah, maybe I do mean to do it subconsciously, because I think it's a pretty cool deal. Like when we're returning from being sick, or we're starting off the couch, or we're trying to do something more, all right, is first we start with frequency of training. So adding more training. Then we adjust volume, all right, duration, how long are we going for? And because frequency, you can't add another day without adding more volume. So these are like peanut butter and jelly, all right? And then we add intensity, except most people add intensity like early, or they're just not patient enough to let like frequency and volume work itself out. So like sometimes I wait, like, if someone's training in really good shape and they get sick and wiped out for like, let's say like a week, next week, like the intensity is very low. I might wait a whole week, like another week, So like we get back into it, it's like light running, aerobic running. I might use the bike in there just to like keep it a little bit easier, and then like get back to the long run. And then the following week I'll start a light, like a shorter intensity session, like VO2 max. Like my clients are always like, but I feel fine. And then they go into it and they're like, oh yeah, my heart rate was up, or I felt a little clunky. I'm like, yeah, because we're not ready there. So all right, yeah. So Karina said, go for it. Happy to be an example for others to learn. Yeah, just coming back from being sick is just be patient, right? And so like I always say, like, what I believe is that the first priority when you get sick is to get back to 80% health before you really start training. Now you can move a little bit prior to that. Like when I feel 60% better, and when I'm wiped out, like I'll go for a walk, or I'll like spin super easy and play solitaire on the indoor bike, spin bike or whatever, at the exercise bike at the gym, and like sauna, or I might like do very light stuff and ease into it, right? But once I get to 80, that's like, okay, I can kind of start getting training. Everything's good. Like the antibiotics are working. I might not sound good, but I feel like, okay, I feel better, right? But then that next, like for 7 days, I quite take my time there. again, I don't have a race coming up, but even with a race coming up, like the timeline doesn't, like we can rush back, but you're just going to stay at 80%, when you have the density of training up. So just keep that in mind. All right, Janice, I miss training a little harder, but I'm trusting the process. Yeah. So Janice, remind me, are you doing the group coaching? Are you doing the challenge, or are you doing your own thing? Curious. I'm just curious. All right, Instagram peeps, what's up? Anyone else drinking wine or having a little adult bevy with me? This is Chardonnay from my friend's vineyard, Fjord Vineyards in Marlborough, New York. Um, really nice stuff. Yeah, just make some good stuff. I heard this year when I went to the Finger Lakes. Any other cork dorks? People who like wine. I'm really not pretentious about it. I enjoy my wine. I enjoy learning about it, but yeah, I mean, keep it fun, keep it simple. I don't think I've ever bought a bottle over like $30. All right. All right. Doing the run challenge 3 days a week. Maybe I should switch to 4. Why? So Janice, why is you're doing the challenge? Why should you switch to 4? What else? Like you have other stuff going on, right? Or you're getting back from an injury, right? Remind me. A lot of people that keep track of, and I try to do my best. So, what's up, Karina? What's up, Brandon? Speaking of good strength coaches and track coaches, Brandon here, who just jumped on, is a very good coach. Has coached quite a few national qualifiers and All-Americans and pole vault and disc and the throws. Karina, how are you doing? I heard about your stuff you got going on. I heard from a little birdie. So my Monday musings today were just about can't unburn toast. So when you overcook it, it's hard to come back from it. So it takes a little bit of time. So we'd rather not be an inch over. We'd rather be a mile short. Yeah, teardrop. Oh yeah, Karina, you're not too far away. Yeah, it's a really great winery, Fjord and Benmarl in Marlborough. Fjord, although I'm saying this now, they had a nice little spot that they leased, and it was so pretty. It's up on these like rolling hills, like apple orchards and vineyards, and just they're great people. But they're opening their own place and building it for a year. But Benmarl has some solid wine too. He makes the wine there as well. Yeah, Karina, slowly recovering. Yeah, take your time because you don't want your injury to, you're on your feet at work and stuff. So yeah, you need to really make sure that recovers and take your time. So yeah, if anyone's on Facebook and has questions, anyone here? Oh, you've been there. Yeah, good stuff. Yeah, they do good wines. I know people don't think New York can make decent wines, but Cab Francs are pretty popular in this area. In New York, like pretty hardy grape and whatnot. Blockenfish grape, which is like more in the Finger Licks, brought over from Germany. Some of the reds there. There was interesting discussion about aging. So aging their wines. Yeah. All the time I hear like you got to wait and sit. I'm just not patient enough. Although this year we've been going to Finger Lakes for 3 years, and first time we would come back like with one bottle from a place we liked. Yeah, and anyway, we come home with a couple boxes now. But this year was the first year like we set up some reds to like kind of sit and wait and see what goes on there. So, training as we age. Got it. Yeah. Yeah. Training as we age, right? So we talked about this a little bit in our group coaching. I see training as like when we're younger, the budget we get is more like already in our bank account. And so we're spending on a debit card. And if we overspend, we can just like go in and grab the money out. We can recover pretty quick. But once we're getting, let's say 40 and over, it kind of And that's where I started to notice it. It turns from we're not spending from our bank account and we're spending on a credit card. So, and credit cards usually have high interest. And so we want to pay them down pretty quickly, right? And we want to pay them in full, but most people don't pay them in full. And, after 8, 10, 12, 14 weeks, or sometimes a year, 2 years, for people who are like mostly doing the right thing, but not taking a week off a year and not taking a day off a week and not backing off for the appropriate amount of time post race. So a marathon is like, it really should be relaxed, real recovery for 2 weeks and then relaxed training for 2 weeks. So for a month, 4 weeks, half is half of that, So anyway, all right, Justin, do heavier runner about 212 pounds and sweat a lot. What's your question? I'm curious. Callan, what's up, buddy? Good to see you this weekend. Yeah, Benmara's good spot and beautiful view on the Hudson. So, what's up, people on Facebook? We're just talking about my Monday musings. You'll have to watch what I spoke about, but basically, like you can't unburn toast from Coach Ryan Hopkins, one of our strength coaches, and this conversation around, like we need to train, right? We need to train, but we also need to back off. All right, so. All right, Justin, any suggestions for fueling? I'm 212 pounds and have a hard time staying hydrated and fueling. Okay, so there are some really good resources out there, and I should find them about nutrition. But when you're running, so I sweat a ton, and it's a good sign to sweat a lot. That's good. So there are ways that you can figure out like what are you sweating out and how many electrolytes you're losing. And there's I forget what it's called. One of my clients had it, but you can definitely search it. There's some wearables and stuff. What's up, Freddie? That's okay. So anyway, so like trouble with fueling. So uh, maybe describe the fueling trouble you have. I'd rather answer it more specifically if I can than just generic. But usually when people have fueling troubles, they're waiting too long to like consume stuff, and then it's hard to catch up. The other main issue that people have is they don't really practice it, and therefore their body's not used to it. And then the third thing I would say is when people are saying that they're a little bit bigger, sometimes they're like trying to undereat during session to like not add more calories to like cut weight, and during training time is not the best time to do that. So Facebook crew, if you have questions, you can ask and we can pop them up here. But yeah, Justin, let me know what you're specific. I get cramps in my quads and also get really dehydrated. Okay. So what distances are you running? What are you doing any races, training for any specific distances? Is it just generic running? How far do you go when you feel it? And yeah. Marathon and marathon training. So is this in training, like just in long runs? Is it only in races? Because it could be two problems there. All right. Usually mile 16 to 20. All right. In races or training runs or both? Because that's not uncommon. Not uncommon. All right. Boston Marathon mile 16 getting cramps and some training runs. All right. So I'll just say I do consultations. All right. And I try to make them a good bang for your buck. All right. So I'm going to try to answer it a little bit, but a little bit on the generic side. Cramping to me is like a two-part problem. And What's up, Adam? I'll get to your question next. Uh, to me, I see people have like cramping issues and whatnot. So like it could be it can happen two ways. I've seen it happen two ways. And the uncommon one I'll start off with is like too much sugar and things are too sweet. Like if you're just drinking Gatorade, it's too sweet. And so the issue there becomes, it's like my understanding, again, I'm not a nutritionist, I'm not a doctor. Uh, but my understanding is it's really sugary, then the body has to like pull water in order to dilute it to like absorb it through osmosis, right? And so it ends up like dehydrating the organs and stuff, and we start to cramp, like really sugary stuff. All right. The other side of things is like there's not enough electrolytes in there. And so um so a little like we need electrolytes in there plus some calories. The third issue that pops up is pacing. All right. And so people, if you're running over your limit, um, and it's possible, it's really possible in a marathon at 16. So, you know, like we only really have 2 hours of glycogen, in our, liver and really in our muscles, right? And so, like after 2 hours, like it's game over if we haven't been putting in nutrition. So most of us, like, most people are getting to around 13. I would say like 11 to 16 in 2 hours, right? That's a pretty big range. And so like we're depleting there. So also Boston is like net downhill, but it's up and down. And so I see a lot of people overcook themselves by just like letting it flow and letting it roll. And then by the time they get to the hills, their quads are done and they're cramping up because they've overpaced themselves. They've gone too hard. And their heart rate represents that, especially at mile 16 on, because it's pretty much uphill from there to 21, right? And so like if your heart rate's higher than what you're used to seeing, that means you're pacing. And for a place like Boston, it becomes like it's like the Super Bowl. So everyone wants the PR there, and it just gets a little crazy and ridiculous. And people pick arbitrary times that they're training for, and maybe they force the training runs. But like for instance, like if like an aerobic, like if you were to be in your green run on a smartwatch and like the heart rate's like 135, like your marathon heart rate is probably somewhere in like sub 160. And so if you're running for 16 miles at like 165, like you're just going to run out of gas. Your body's going to do something, and probably it can do it in cramping up. Um, Carbs wise, it's like you can process like 100 calories to 400 calories an hour. The 400 calories, so 400 calories is like 100 grams. And so that's like what a lot of people are doing, but it has to be glucose and fructose. It can't just be glucose. So Martin gels, SIS. It can't be like some of these other ones that are like like Whole Foods. They don't always have fructose in there. So make sure it has both, because there's two different pathways you can absorb it, so you can get more in there. I get some of mine liquid calories and gel calories. Gels, you can take one serving of gel like every like 30 to 45 minutes, and you probably get a lot closer, and making sure you hydrate. So if you're carrying anything like that. So I would say it sounds like it could be a nutrition issue, but we'd have to really dig through that. But don't let go of it. It could be a pacing thing, because this happens in Boston. All right, Adam, walking versus jogging, shuffling between speed intervals. Is there benefit to keeping things slightly more intense between intervals? There is no benefit to keeping things more intense between intervals, because when we're doing speed work, aka VO2 max, Adam's one of my clients, so I can be really direct with this answer here. So when we do VO2 max work, we're trying to really push the body to like consume as much oxygen as possible. Now, it generally takes somewhere like three-ish minutes to like get to that point. With Adam and a lot of my clients, I do a lot of like VO2 max prep work, because we have full schedules and we have a certain budget to allocate. And depending on what our focus is, which for Adam has been marathon pace or marathons for the past couple of years, and we're shifting away from that a little bit. We want to do everything possible in order to keep the velocity. So like VO2 velocity at velocity at, yeah, I guess it's V of threshold. So yeah, it's velocity at VO2 max, right? So the V in velocity, VO2 max is velocity, and that's what's important. So when in high school and college, when we were doing, true VO2 max work, like quarter repeats, 800 repeats, stuff like that. We just stood around, walked around, moved a little bit and got some water in us. And because we're trying to get the heart rate to come down as much as possible in the interval, which is 1-to-1. So if we go 1 minute on, it's 1 minute rest, 3 minutes on, 3 minutes rest, 6 minutes on, 6 minute rest. At that point, it's getting too far. All right. So we mostly did things 3 minutes and under. And so you just want to get that heart rate to come down as much as possible so that you can maintain the quality and the velocity through the whole thing. Okay. So you do not want to make it intense in between. I would much rather you walk. But I don't mind some shuffling if you need to. And when we're on the treadmill, we shuffle because otherwise it'll shut down and it gets a little boring. But outside, I just like walk, like really just walk. Okay. So hopefully I answered that. All right. Runner cat lover. Who's this? I feel like I know them. Oh, Joanne. Hello. What's up, Joanne? So I'm a little confused where the burning the toast line is. Is it heart rate, soreness, tiredness, and aren't you supposed to feel some of these while training? You can feel those while training. You don't have to. So Joanne's one of my newer clients. And so this is a great opportunity to explain some of these things to everyone, right? So yes, you're supposed to feel some of these things, but when Joanne comes from playing basketball and stuff, I find ball sports athletes tend to have this like when you did fitness training, you really pushed hard because when I watched practices and I watch like when you coach track and field, you're on there's a field in the middle. So I saw field hockey, soccer, both genders, lacrosse, um, I've seen everything in the middle. And there's a lot of instruction in team sports. And when there's a lot of instruction, there's a lot of downtime. So when you have to go, you go and you push a little bit harder. So I think it's skewed more towards the hardness bit of it. And then you play so many games that you're just like in survival mode. It's a team-based sport, a skill-based sport. In more performance-based sports like rowing, swimming, and track and field and running, the whole thing is to perform at a certain point in time, right? And this does matter for ball sports, but it matters. The whole entire thing is like we're using races and distances to like fine tune things. So the overburning the toast thing means so heart rate is the first place that it can happen, meaning that, if you're always over a little bit, then you're always overspending your budget, and it won't happen burning the toast immediately. It's not like it happens in one shot. It's more the like over a period of time. So it generally happens over a week to several weeks. Okay. I think the next place, so that's like kind of the subtle way. The next place is like tiredness. Like you get up and you're like, man, I don't feel like training. And so that's a place where, that's a start and an early indication. If we're in a volume block and we're training for a marathon, we're going to be there. All right. So we might start getting close to the toast is done, but we're conscientious of this and we know that that's the goal there. Okay. Ultimately, when you get sore and like, okay, say you added strength back in or we changed something strength wise, or you wanted to have fun and you like really push something and you're sore, or say you did pickleball or played pickup basketball or something on vacation and we're not used to moving in those ways. And so we're sore, that's more acute stuff, but it does pile up. I really think the burning the toast thing is from a running standpoint is more the heart rate's the first indicator, then fatigue and motivation, right? If fatigue increases, motivation decreases. Okay. So, but yeah, we want to feel some of them. It's just, when you're making toast, like you want it to be cooked. That's okay. But burnt toast is not good. Okay. So that's the difference. It's just that fine line of going an inch over. And so that's the nuance of what's going on. What's up, Race Pace MD? What's up, Tomas? Adam, so does that apply to our threshold intervals too, which are lower intensity heart rate and demand? Okay. So in threshold, you can walk, and I have walked, but that's a place where I tend to tell people like, hey, just like kind of keep moving, because if we're looking at heart rate's like steadily climbing up and slowly, and then it's kind of like we could say making toast, but like we're cooking cookies, right? And so the temperature, the heart rate, the temp, in the oven, not the temperature in your body, but it's also the temperature in your body, is slowly going up, right? And then when we recover, like, if the recovery is too long, then it's like a VO2 max workout, like it drops too low. So the next one, we got to spend like the whole front part of the interval to get back to this level. And now we're back to cooking the cookies. All right. So it's a place where if people are like starting to get like really tired, I say just like walk and just hang out. But some of the athletes, like when they're really good shape, especially when we did this as a team, because like I wanted people to run in a group and be around each other and like just run consistently. So the people who are in better shape, instead of shortening the recovery and having people go off at different times in a team setting, I would have them like, hey, go like keep running. And the other person, I just say, hey, walk, like, get a sip of water or something and get ready. So, man, that lighting is fucking weird. All right. So, in one-on-one sessions and when you're training on your own, I would say it's okay to shuffle, but I would start at a walk, try to get that heart rate to come down like 20, 30 BPM. And VO2 max, we want like more like 30 or 40 BPM. Not hard, but yeah. So that's a great question. So threshold, we're trying to like, the other analogy I give is like if a bathtub's filling up, we don't want it to overflow and go onto the floor. It goes up, and then when we recover, we're trying to lower the volume of the bathtub a little bit, but we don't want it empty because then it takes a while for the bathtub to fill up back to where we can get into it and it's covering us. What's up, Ashley? What's up, Marnie? The real running mom. Hello. All right, Joanne. Hope to answer your question. And when I get off here, I'll send you some times for my availability. These are great questions. I always appreciate you. I always appreciate everyone showing up and engaging. Even if you didn't, I would just talk to myself, I guess, and drink wine. Because we're all adults here. What's up, Try Run? Yeah, and then you go to golf, which is precision, right? And well, some people are bringing power to it over the years, but it's a precision. So think archery. You're probably taking more things about, like how to be calm under pressure and, really understand, where the ball's going and different stuff. So like archery, shooting, like in biathlon, like skiing and shooting, which is like one of my favorite things to watch in the Olympics, along with like short track speed skating. And of course, I enjoy bobsled, and luge because I've been around them. But yeah, different sports have different focal points, right? And so, certainly fitness and precision sports is important. It can be, but it doesn't have to be. Look at darts. I mean, geez, this guy's make some bank it's not easy. But every sport has a different thing. So like when we're trying to take training. So like I remember going to LA to the LA Galaxy soccer team. They had they had like a seminar on like coaching soccer players and more from the fitness side of things. And so just how do you periodize it? But like if a team is like, you need them to be fit, but when they're playing like a game every 3 days, like in the Premier League and the Champions League and these European leagues, like you're just trying to get them to stay fit. Yeah. So Karina, yeah, explosive and power for golf, but golfers need endurance too. Yeah, absolutely. Right. Like, but it's the interplay, like what's more important, right? And that's like if we're looking at like a portfolio, like a fitness or like movement stack, we're looking at like mobility, range of motion, fluidity and like the joints, like the body connecting in different ways, and then speed and power in like a transverse. Is it transverse? Like in a rotational kind of way, which is like baseball. Like baseball is very similar, right? So like rotational power. And whatnot like that. So yeah, like Bryson DeChambeau or whatever, like bringing that. Tiger was one of the first ones to like really be lifting. I'm going to be honest, I don't know a lot of like women examples. 36 holes days are, yeah. Listen, I play golf a few times a few times a month. And when I play, I'm like a 9. Like I like my 9. Like I'll walk 9 or cart 9, or sometimes we'll cart 18. And if I play 18, it's like it takes me like 3 holes to warm up because I won't go to the driving range, and then I'm good like 5 to like 10, 11, maybe 12, and then I start fading. So that's the hard part, is balancing all of that plus the skill. Yeah. So this is where, like, in the off season, like, you could periodize, like, power, because power and explosiveness takes the longest to develop, and it's more nervous system, right? So you really got to be able to neural fire without thinking about it, because as soon as you think about it internal cueing, it slows down movements, right? So you need to think about that early season. You can think more and be more like PhD level about it, but then as you get closer to the season, you want to think less and just do. So um, yeah, I think all sports are kind of crazy. So, but it's also how, like, you're raised too. And I remember, like, seeing from, like, kids, like developing kids, like my dad was just like smash the ball, just smash it. Like, we just smashed the ball. Like, we were driving range kids. So, like, we just smashed the ball. Like, I remember being like 6, 7, 8, like we would just go and hit a bucket of large balls and just smash it. And so as we got older, we started to, like, my dad would be like, "Hey, we're going for this flag, like, see if you could put it there." And he would never let us, like, win. He would just do it. And we still do it to this day. Um, you just need that goblet of wine or two, and you won't feel anything. Well, I actually do that. I'll get a couple brewskis, and I don't drink that much. I sound like I'm drinking all the time, but here is one place I don't mind it. And then golf, it's just, I'll grab for 18, I'll grab 2 beers, I'll wait for it, and just have a nice little buzz, for fun, for fun. But then when I play like 2, 3 balls, it's just like, ball B is always better than ball A. But I've taken my driver. Last year, I committed to taking my driver out. I cannot control the driver. I can hit my driver 280 to 310 when it goes straight, but it often goes out. I'm a righty. It goes out low and then boom, and it flies out. So, you just gotta. So I'm a 2-iron. I have an old school, like, 1970s 2-iron, which I need to get a Titleist 2-iron. And then I can put it, 260, 280, and in the center of the fairway. I'll be happy camper. And then I have a P wedge that I'm 130 out. I'm a happy guy. 130 to about 80. Once I get inside that, I don't have a lot of clubs. Anyway, somehow this turned into golf. But 36 holes, I'd be exhausted. So, Karina, running and getting that endurance there, and then through the season, like, you might need just a couple runs to just, like, maintain that, and like one power lift a week, away from your matches or your tourneys, and you can kind of maintain. So anyway, all right. Last couple questions, if anyone has them. I appreciate you guys, or any comments or any oddball things. But yeah, Justin, if you're still around, like I said, I do consultations. I'm not trying to, like, market anything here, but that's where, like, we can sit down. I can ask like 15 more questions and see a couple things and figure it out. But yeah. Yeah, I almost won a long drive contest at the Palmetto golf course in Newburgh. You might know where that is, Karina. It was a scramble. Oh, snap hook. Yeah. Well, what I do is that I use I like hitting it a little bit lower, and I don't have a great swing. I will say that. I kind of lift up on my feet a little bit sometimes, and I come through it instead of just, like, punching it out. But on the driving range, I can get it done, but on the tee box, it totally gets away from me. Anyway, this is where I'm less technical with that stuff. So with my irons, I just, they're a little bit more forgiving. Yeah, my two iron is that's my happy place. I like that guy. Not 280 in the air. Okay, just to be clear. like rolls. I call that the butter knife. Yeah, damn it. Yeah, Chubbs once told me. But my whole family, because we grew up in a driving range, we can't putt to save our lives. And they say you drive for show and putt for dough. And in triathlon, they say you swim, bike for show, and you run for the dough. But we'll do a scramble and like we'll get on to like hit eagle, with my dad and my brother. And what's up? What's up, purple greens? Um, we'll get on the and it's like just someone make the putt. So it's it's so bad. And I like my dad's retired. I'm like, Dad, you just need to practice putting, although he's very consistent with everything else. So and my brother can smash him. But yeah, we're just driving range junkies. So anyway, any last questions, observations, curiosities? If you're just joining on now, this is Monday Musings, where I talk about things that are on top of mind, soapboxy. And today we talked about, you can't unburn toast from Coach Ryan Hopkins, who's a strength coach with Team Lopers. And yeah, it was just a really interesting point of, once you go too far, you've gone too far and you know it. But up until then, it's just right, I guess, is the thing. Chubbs. Should watch that, Billy Madison or Happy Gilmore. But if you have any questions about training, racing, curiosities, I'll hang out for 4 more minutes. Then it's 10 o'clock my time. I gotta go sleep. So, Facebook people, if you're watching, you have any questions, you can just like comment in the feed and it'll pop up and I see it. Or if you're on YouTube. Yeah. So, all right. What's up, Lisa? Karina, when's your first tournament or match? What do you call them? Tournaments? I'm curious. And I'd be up for playing if you ever want to play. I'm willing to travel a little bit. End of April. Not in New York. Actually, we should get a Team Lopers golf thing going. In New York? In April? I guess. I'm a track coach, man. April, well, end of April, the last week of April can be decent. Oh, it's your warm-up. Okay, cool. Yeah, let's play. You get to make fun of me. And we can turn the tides. You give me advice. And I'll give you advice for running. So, yeah, Cornwall, right? You're in? We can find something. I hear West Point is nice. I've never been. Oh, I saw Carly. New bike day. New bike day. New bike day. New bike day. So Callan plays. I don't know if you know Callan. I think everyone knows Callan in a certain sense. But Callan plays. Been meaning to play with him. Yeah, Team Lover Golf League. We should do a scramble. I don't know if Matt plays. But what do you think of your new bike, Carly? In person. Yeah, you said that, Callan. West Point is awesome. I've heard that a bunch. Like, good course. Listen, I grew up on Dogwood Knolls. And we call it a doggy roll because they do not water anything. And those fairways are hard as crap. They'll take chunks out of your irons and it's cash only. Who knows what they're money laundering there. And we go at like 5 o'clock on a Saturday or 4:30 and like no one's on the course and we get to play. Yeah. So, well, let's be in touch. I've been slowly trying to teach my wife over the years. I think I got her hook when I'm like, we can go to the golf course at 10:30 and we go up in the Finger Lakes. And this golf course, like the greens and the fairways are just lawn grass. I'm like, hey, this is the perfect place to learn. And we grab a couple beers. It's vacation, so we're driving around. And she's actually pretty good. Like she can make. I'm like, look, the first little bit, we've only been a few times. Just make contact. Don't worry about where it's going. And she was borrowing my clubs, but we've got her some women's clubs off. She found them on Facebook, and she's so pumped. So we got to go to the simulator and just start like working on it so we can go outside. Because I'm like, hon, if we wait till we're retired and you're learning to play, I'm not playing with you. I can't tolerate it. So let's learn now, have a little bit of fun. Oh, you grew up in California. This winter thing is why I took up running. Yes. You grew up in Harlem Valley. Yeah, dirt court. I mean, I honestly, I'm going to be honest. I do not like going to nice courses because there's rangers. They're up on you. Like people are going. It's just like everything's so tight, and I'm just like, give me a wide open course that no one gives a shit. I can drop another ball with no one looking and hit it, and have some fun. Okay. Then upgraded to Sagala. Oh yeah, that one's nice. I think right in Amenia. Anyway, we're talking golf here. Carly, do you like your new bike? Is it cool in person? It looks so sick. It's such a unique color. I'll say this, you guys, and I haven't mentioned this, but you guys will want wax base chain lube because the oil base will get like oily, duh, but it'll get black and it'll throw up on your frame and it's matte and it's not going to be pretty. Yeah, it's awesome. Sweet. Yeah, I'll send you a link for like chain lube to get so that it doesn't mess up your bike. And like uh oil-based lube is for wet conditions, which you guys, well, I guess you're not gonna ride in the rain too much. But of course they would. And it is better. It's way more unique. Unique New York. Awesome. All right, peeps. Appreciate you hanging out. My clients who are in the East Coast base and it's 10 o'clock, go the fuck to bed. All right. You know who you are. Go to bed. Go to sleep. All right. Appreciate you guys hanging out with me. Monday Musings on Groundhog's Day. Don't even talk to me about paying attention to what a Groundhog say. My wife was like, he said in 6 weeks, this is bullshit. I said, hon, your birthday is February 24th. Like, has it ever been not cold? And that's 4 weeks away. Like, get out of here. So, yeah. See, here's the thing: is oil-based chain lube. Little goes a long way, and you don't need to reapply it as much, but it does get all over the place. Wax-based, you need to apply it more, so you go through more of it because it forms and then it dries up, and then when dirt collects to it, the dry wax flakes off, and so you need to reapply it way more often. All right, but Silka Secret Sauce. Silka's the company, and Secret Sauce is the chain lube. That's kind of like the best, like kind of in between. It's not cheap, but I thought it was the nicest, and I've been through a lot of them. All right, everyone. You all have a good night. If you're just joining on, you can look at what the Monday Musing was about earlier. The Monday Musings here are about me talking about current topics I'm running into with my clients, things I'm thinking about or have read. I get on my soapbox and I talk about it, my perspective. You can follow me on Jay Harris Coaching. You came here, give me a follow. Also on YouTube and Facebook, Jay Harris Coaching. Right now, my one-on-one coaching is full, but you can find me by doing consultations and interacting with me on social media. Okay, so don't hesitate to reach out. My vision and mission is to make the most positive impact. And I believe that I can do a better job in sport than in some other areas. And so check me out and we'll go from there. So if you have any questions or particular, and then I have a newsletter. It's free. It goes twice a month. I didn't do it this week because I had a couple things pop up. But every 1st and 15th. So twice a month. It's free. It's 5 minutes. So it's in my link in my bio on Instagram. So check that out. And yeah, I got like several hundred people, and it keeps growing slowly. And I talk about the art of training, all right, which includes the science. So it's based in science, but it's really how you take the science and apply it to real life to get results. So check me out there. All right, everyone. See y'all later. Get to bed. Bye.